Hi, Amy Hill. I am here with Michael LaPierre, and he is running for the South Carolina GOP Chair, along with 3 other folks. I am going to be doing a series of interviews so that we can get the information out to you, the people, and you call your delegates, call your GOP, and let them know that you saw the video and give them your opinion. And this is Michael LaPierre.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. Thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you. And I love this little town. I drove up here to Pickens to meet Mr. LaPierre, and it's a beautiful little town. And this is a great coffee shop. We're in the Coyote Coffee.
Coyote Coffee.
Yeah.
It's my home away from home, so come on in. They got 3 locations, by the way.
That's fantastic. So they're here in Pickens and where? Pickens,
Easley, and Powdersville. Yeah. And the owner is a wonderful lady, Tunky. So come on down, visit Coyote Coffee.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I'll go ahead and start. Of course, there is a lot of new GOP members and delegates, first-time delegates, which is exciting this year. A lot of people are choosing to participate in the political process, which the more the merrier. I think that's fantastic. So we're going to go through these questions, and hopefully everybody will get to know Mr. LaPierre better. So briefly, for the audience, give us a quick bio of what your political background, beliefs, and aspirations.
Yeah, so my political background really started during the Ronald Reagan years, where when I went to college, Ronald Reagan was just coming to power. So I am a young Republican, and I just adore Ronald Reagan and that whole legacy. I also had the privilege, I went to Brown University and I studied political science and business. I did a double major, and I had the privilege while at Brown to study under some of the most conservative and really some of the most conservative leaders in the world. We would have visiting scholars and visiting lecturers come through, and we had people like Howard Baker, Reagan's chief of staff. We would have Jean Kirkpatrick, who was the first, Nikki Haley to the United Nations, and then she also held another cabinet level post at the same time. So these people were very, very conservative in nature, and that's where I grew up at Brown, understanding the political realm. Now, my dad was a politician. He was involved in politics, so I've been in and around campaigns for a long while, and then most recently, I think the audience probably knows I ran against Senator Lindsey Graham for the United States Senate, and we did really, really well. I was so happy being a total unknown, and compound that with the fact that Lindsey Graham was coming off the Kavanaugh hearings, so he had some momentum. And so it was. We got 80,000 votes. We get the name recognition that we can use as a springboard to our next run.
Right. That's great.
Yeah.
So why are you running, and what would you like to accomplish if elected the state GOP chair?
Yeah, so what I see when I look at South Carolina, I look at South Carolina through the eyes of very conservative people. Steve Bannon, as an example, and many of the other political pundits, they see South Carolina as less than conservative. And for me, that is problematic. We want to be on the cutting edge of conservatism. We want to be on the cutting edge of understanding the party platform and then believing the party platform. And there's a big disconnect. And I'll give you an example. Senator Lindsey Graham, hypothetically, I mean, he is our senator, and Drew McKissick, the state chair. So Lindsey Graham says that Roe v. Wade should stay where it is. This is the Supreme Court decision that allows the murder of 65 million babies. Lindsey Graham says it should stay where it is. Lindsey Graham also wants to allow illegal immigrants to cross our borders and then have a pathway to citizenship. Lindsey Graham wants a tax on our carbon footprint. Lindsey Graham voted for Sotomayor and Kagan. All of these things combined are an anathema to our Republican Party platform, but yet, when I was running for Senate, I get a letter from Drew McKissick's office as chairman of the Republican Party right during the middle of the primary saying, please support Lindsey Graham and defend Lindsey Graham and send him money. So that confuses me. Either you believe in the Republican Party, the principles of the Republican Party, or you believe in some Fantasyland version that Lindsey Graham and I guess Drew McKissick, since he supports Lindsey Graham, so that's the problem that I have. But that is my belief. I believe in the Republican Party platform, and we're going to
the creed.
Oh,
definitely.
and the creed. The creed. What I like about that is it, in a sense, it tells you to pick yourself up by your bootstraps, get involved, and be a free American. I mean, hard work, dedication. And every time you break through a wall, it's another learning experience, and you grow, and you help people. And so, my life story is that I broke down a lot of walls. There were periods in my upbringing where we were on welfare. I lived in a farmette. I mean, my parents were dirt poor, but yet I broke the wall. I get into an Ivy League school, and then from there, I broke the wall. People told me it could never happen. I signed a professional baseball contract, and then, I told my wife and some friends, I'm going to get a 4.0, and I'm going to get my MBA. Well, they laughed at me. Well, I got a 4.0, and I got an MBA. Mm-hmm. So, life is a series of walls that we need to break down, and I think what I want to do as state chairman is break down the walls.
Yeah, that's, of course. I mean, that's how we build the country, is break down the walls. Yeah. So do you have any experience, and from what I'm hearing, you're going to say yes to this one definitely, in business and financial accountability, and specifically fundraising, because that's very important for any political party? Yes, ma'am.
That's a good question. I have 33 years of corporate experience. I was a vice president of sales at a Fortune 500 company. I was a strategist, a business strategist, who would present cases to the executive group about the direction of our company. And this is a $65 billion company with a B.
Wow.
Twice the size of South Carolina budget, I believe. So I was consulting with executives on which direction to take the company. So I have a lot of business experience, and that business experience also, as anyone knows who's been in the corporate world, it's all about politics. It's all about relationship building. It's all about building a vision for the future. That's what corporate America is, and I was very successful at it. I had a lot of success rising to the rank of a vice president of sales, and then as a business strategist at a $65 billion company. So a lot of experience.
That's good experience. And fundraising, I heard you say earlier you have a 501?
Yeah, so fundraising, because I was in sales, I have a unique advantage when it comes to the fundraising. I sold in my corporate career and the people that worked for me the intangible.
Right.
We sold service. Right. So we had to convince multi-million-dollar customers to use us, and so sales and fundraising. And I have a 501c3 that we go around the world, and we teach and we preach Christian leadership and the principles of leadership from a Bible perspective. So
lots of experience then. So when you think about the Republican creed, does it inspire you? And if so, how? How does that inspire you?
Yeah, the inspiration that I get, it really goes back to, why are we here? why are we on the face
Right.
of this earth? So we're trying to get to, the creed is really trying to get down to the fundamentals of why we exist. And for me, it certainly is to glorify God. That is why we're here. So what we have to do is we need to get beyond what I call the delicacies of political ideology. The things that, from a political perspective, that we hold on to. We got to get beyond the delicacies of political ideology and realize that it is God's moral law. That is the foundation of what we're doing. God, if we believe that God is supreme and He is sovereign over everything, He's sovereign over, let's say, the arts and the entertainment field, and He's sovereign over the workplace, and He's sovereign over athletics. God is also sovereign over the political domain.
Of course.
And we've got to understand that. And that's why the creed inspires me, because it takes us back to what are we here for? It's not about me. It's not about you.
Right.
It's about a higher power.
Absolutely. So, what would you change, or what would you like to change about the state GOP organization and how it's currently run?
Yeah.
And just in your words and what you would like to see as far as change, not necessarily what you think's being done wrong, but what you want to do to improve or make improvements.
Yeah. So the very first thing that we need to do that my opponents are not discussing, and that is educate people on this thing called separation of church and state. Right now, there are many people in our party who believe that separation of church and state is in the Constitution, and it's not. The only separation of church and state that we are obligated to is where in the Word of God it says, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and render
Right.
unto God the things that are God. Now here's the difference. What we have done is we've created a version of separation of church and state that is not biblical. And we've done it through the Supreme Court of the United States. I love legal cases. I love the Supreme Court. I read a lot of that. So what they've done is they've created legal precedents that is at odds with the Word of God, and it's called Lemon versus Kurtzman. Go to the internet and look that up. Lemon
I will
versus
definitely
Kurtzman.
do that. Yeah.
And so there's 3 points with Lemon versus Kurtzman. They tell you that laws must have a secular purpose, that laws cannot advance or inhibit religion, and then laws cannot entangle government in the affairs of religion. And what that is a secular way. It's a catch-22. And what happens is all of our laws, they all point to a fictitious and a fallacious, it's a lie. It's a lie. So I would encourage people to look at that and study Lemon versus Kurtzman.
That is definitely interesting, and I'm going to look into that. So what are your top conservative legislative priorities, and how do you envision working with state legislature to push a more conservative agenda for South Carolina? As you know, we're known as the most liberal conservative state in the United States. So what would you do to work with those legislators to encourage them to pass conservative legislation, be actually reflective of the people?
Yeah, so what I would do as state chair, I would use the bully pulpit much more than is currently being used. As
You'll have to explain the bully pulpit.
Yeah, so the bully pulpit, when you have an office, a position, there's influence. You get to speak in public a lot. And so what we are missing is someone who speaks in public but brings us back to the party platform, that brings us back to the right version of separation of church and state, and that will time and again make sure that elected officials are held accountable. I mean, so we all know the acronym RHINO. All right. So I will be challenging those who do not follow the Republican Party platform. It's not that we're automatically at odds, but if decisions are being made that are not in line with the platform, I'm going to speak up. I will not remain silent. So here's what the current leadership does. There's the Latin expression. I took Latin, and it's called.
I'm not surprised, Michael.
Qui tacet consenter. So what that means is, he who is silent is considered to consent. And I can promise you, South Carolina, I will not sit silent when there are elected officials that are playing in Rhino Land. I will call them out every single time.
What type of legislation do you see that you would want to push more?
Yeah, we've got to get personhood passed. It was a shame. I'm an incrementalist when it comes to life. If someone were to tell me 10 years from now, Roe v. Wade is going to be overturned, I'm probably going to get real excited. But between now and 10 years from now,
small gains.
I want the small. If I can save lives, thousands of lives before then, I want to save the lives. That's how I look at it. Not everyone agrees with that, but I
probably
do.
The large majority.
Yeah, I think so. But that's personhood. Very, very critical. We have to become a sanctuary state for our Second Amendment rights.
Yeah.
We have to. Our gun rights are critical.
Right.
And I think we know that, especially now, with a dominant and a pervasive government and secular presence on our shores with the Joe Biden administration. We need our guns. Next thing that we need to do, we've got to lock down hard our election laws.
Right.
We've got to make sure that every T and every I is dotted, every T crossed, every I is dotted when it comes to our election laws. There's no room for error, because if we do not feel like we can vote and have our vote count, we will not have a country. We just won't. So those are three vital ones. And then the last I would add, our party, we need to embrace the younger generation. We need to embrace legal, L-E-G-A-L, legal immigrants and Black Americans in a much bigger way. We have done a poor job of assimilating that demographic in our party, and that is shameful.
Thank you for recognizing that, because a lot of us believe that. It's paramount. So the state GOP party, as a whole, has seen quite a bit of division this year, and we don't need to get into detail on the division. But what is your plan to pull the party back together, unify it, and move forward?
Yeah. First of all, I want to be very frank. I always say what I believe. I am not interested in a reality television kind of run for the chair position. That's what I'm seeing right now with some people, and I think that's shameful. Let's talk about the issues. Let's talk about voting records. Let's talk about people that you have supported. And let's talk about your leadership style and those types of things, as opposed to some of the reality TV that I'm seeing right now with some candidates, which have disappointed me greatly. So we can have a fight. We can have an in-depth discussion on the issues. Policy is a favorite of mine, but we don't need to get down into the I don't even know what you call it. It's the mire and the muck of politics. We're better than this, and so I would say let's keep it clean.
Oh, absolutely. And in conclusion, just what would you like people to know about you that would convince them to vote for you at the convention, the state convention in May? Just your closing statement to everyone to let them know Michael LaFierre.
If I could just boil it down, in the corporate world we were taught, just boil it down and tell me, what you're all about. I would say that the word results is something that When you get to know me, when you look at my history, the successes that I've had, then you'll quickly realize that I am a man of results. So when I say that we will be a more conservative Republican Party, you can count on it. We will be taking on the rhinos in a very big way, and we will always, always, always do it with love, but we're going to point them back to our party platform every single time. And that's the difference. I will not pick winners and losers in a primary. We've seen that happen with the current leadership. I'm not interested in that. There's this thing in America called the primacy of equality. It's a great word. Look, your audience should look that up. It means that we have a fair fight. So when people that are in a chair position are sending out letters supporting other people in a primary, I don't think that's right. I think we need a fair fight in our primary. So that's one of the other things that I'll focus on. But really appreciate the time that we've had tonight, and you've asked a lot of good questions.
Thank you.
And,
I am so pleased that you agreed to do this. A lot of folks out there in South Carolina, they're either not on Telegram or they don't see it on the news. Certainly big news is not going to cover a simple GOP chair. But we just want to get the information out there,
Amen.
Make sure that everyone hears all the candidates and that everything is fair and on the same playing level, and that people can make an informed decision. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I really
pleasure.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank y'all for tuning in again on this 4-part interview series of the South Carolina GOP Chair Candidates. I'm Amy Hill again, and I hope you're enjoying these. This is Mr. Mark Powell. He is also running. And we are here in Williamston, is it?
Springwater Park.
Springwater Park. And there is actually a spring behind us that's providing fresh water, which you've gotten water out of before.
Yep.
It's I'm going to have to taste it before we leave.
It's very good. It's got lots of minerals. We have a festival, Springwater Festival, every year, 4th week in August.
And there's actually a festival going on right now in Pelzer today.
West Pelzer.
West Pelzer. Yep. I got the history lesson on that. So West Pelzer. So if you guys are out near this area, go on down to West Pelzer. They are absolutely having a good time out there. Lots of vendors and antique folks. But the reason that we are doing this again is because of there are a lot of new GOP delegates and individuals that came into the party this year. And welcome, of course, everyone. But we want you to get to know the candidates, all the candidates that are running. So briefly, for our audience, give them a quick bio and what your political background is, beliefs, and aspirations.
A quick bio. I'm from Pelzer. I've only lived 6.9 miles from there, so I'm a local guy. I love my town. I love my country. Politically, I voted for Jimmy Carter, 1980. I met him in 1979 in the Rose Garden as the president of South Carolina DECA, which I understand you were a member of DECA.
Yes, I was in DECA.
So I voted for him. I shook the man's hand. I knew nothing. And I learned a lot from that 1980 experience, and was there in Greenville and participated in Ronald Reagan's campaign, and have been a diehard ultra-conservative Republican ever since.
Good, great, fantastic. So I'm going to ask you a 2-part question. Why are you running, and what would you like to accomplish if elected the state GOP chair?
I've ran twice. I skipped 2 years ago, 2019. My goal is to close the primaries.
Okay.
The way I like to explain an open primary, the way we have it, is Clemson's just up the road, South Carolina's just down the road. Mm-hmm. Would you want the team members of South Carolina to pick our quarterback for Clemson? Would you want the team members in Carolina to pick our quarterback? The answer would be no. So if we close our primaries, we would be picking our candidate to represent our platform, to represent the things that we stand for, instead of just allowing anybody who meets the credentials and pays the fees to be on our ticket as a Republican. If you're Coca-Cola, You don't allow somebody to have red with the word Coke on it, because that is a trademark name that has something, a meaning behind it, which is the quality of the product, the quality of the merchandise. Well, the R in the Republicans has become just a letter. It's just an R. It doesn't stand for a platform. It doesn't stand for a creed. It's just a letter that elected officials get to have in front of their name, but it doesn't get any of the policies that we as conservatives want to be brought forth on a legal platform with our elected officials. So I want to close the primary so that we can have meaning to our platform and have people who represent our platform.
Okay, thank you. And do you have any experience in business and financial accountability, specifically fundraising? Because we know that there is a huge portion of the GOP chair where they do fundraising for the party.
Fundraising, as far as huge, no. I've worked with several campaigns and helped people in our local area. I've ran for office, a write-in candidate for a state house seat, District 10. I ran as a senator. Don't hold this against me, but I tried to run as a Democrat in the election for the Senate in my district to prove the point that you have to put me on the ballot. They didn't. Even though we put everybody on it. I took it to court, long story. Some of you know about it because I've talked about it before. And I did that to prove that we've got to close our primaries to keep people off our ballot. The Democrats don't put anybody on theirs. We Republicans don't need to have to let anybody on ours.
That makes sense.
I've ran large projects. Mexico was a $2.6 million project. I've ran big projects, so I've been over large budgets and oversaw stuff. But on fundraising, let me tell you this. If I become chairman, number one, you have to raise a little less money because I will not accept a salary, just like it was before Matt Moore was given the position by Chad Connolly. So that's one way you're going to save money. So I have to raise less. And the other thing is, when I send out a questionnaire or survey, I will have a sheet that has a survey. I want you to answer the questions. But on that same sheet, when you flip it over, it's not going to make you feel bad if you don't donate to the party. Because it's like, if I don't donate money, are they even going to look at my questionnaire? I don't think they do. Because if you don't donate money, they don't think you deserve to be heard. So I will send out questionnaires, but the questionnaire will be a questionnaire. There will be a separate piece of paper that if you want to fill it out and put it in with the questionnaire, please feel free. But I want to know what you want our party to do. Love to have your money, but I don't want you to feel like you have to give money in order to hear your opinions heard on the questionnaire.
Yeah, thank you. So the creed, let's talk about the Republican creed a little bit, or you talk about the Republican creed. Does that inspire you, the Republican creed, and if so, how?
You know, a lot of people who talk about the Republicans, they think we don't care about poor people. They think we don't care about certain people. That's not true. We care about everyone. We care so much that we want them to be self-made. You know, I choose not to be a common man. I want to be uncommon. I'd rather have an incentive instead of dole. We're not a party of handouts. The one thing I will say is, at least we do not stand for, we will give you an extra this if you'll vote for us. We will give you longer, I hated the extension that happened for $600, extensions and extra money on your unemployment. What the creed means to me is make your own world. Get out and work. I was in Mexico for 16 weeks in 2016. The interesting thing there, they don't have any welfare. In Mexico, if you don't work, you don't eat. Guess what? There's no one starving in Mexico because they know if they want to eat, they must work. But in our country, you don't have to work. We'll give you a place to live. There's apartments just right on the other side of those railroad tracks, Pecan Terrace, and then another one, Parkview, all free housing for people because that's what we do. So the creed to me is about freedom, the freedom to do what I want to do, less government, less interference, and to make your own self, to make your own life.
Make your own way. And a lot of Republicans do feel that way. So what would you like to change if anything, about the SC GOP organization and how it's ran, or how it's been traditionally ran?
Oh, I had asked Amy a question. I have no clue, if I wanted to accept a paycheck, what this job pays. And I don't know that you would tell me now, because everybody would know. I've asked, and I've not been told. I've asked my executive committeeman, and he can't find out. So I would change it to where it would be honest and open. I'm told that they hand out a budget, and it shows $300 and something thousand salary. I would also say that the reason the salary was okayed, if you remember, you might not have been involved in that time, but they gave Matt Moore a paycheck because he was going to run the office, the executive director and the chairman. So it was a paid position because he was going to run the office because he lived there. Well, he didn't do that. Hope, which does a wonderful job. Hope, you're good. Shortly after that, they appointed her executive director. So what happened to him doing the executive director's job? So I would look at the number of employees. I'd like to know how many employees we had back 5 years ago to compare to how many employees we have now. So the money we have to raise more money to pay more people. If I think the government needs to be leaner and meaner, the Republican Party at the state level should have to be also. You can't tell the state house, hey, you need to cut your budget so my taxes will be lower. You can't tell the federal government you need to lower our taxes so I have more money in my pocket, when we on the state GOP keep hiring more and more employees, which means we need to beg you for more and more money in order to pay all those employees.
Understood. Yeah. So what are your top conservative legislation priorities, and how do you envision working with state legislators to push more of a conservative agenda in South Carolina?
Just this past week, there was legislation going through about boys being able to play in girls' sports.
Right.
And if you're a boy playing in girls' sports, you're all going to girls' room to change clothes. In our highly outnumbered Republican-led House, it did not get passed. It did not get out of committee. And I think that's sad. Is it because they need to keep their votes for their Democratic friends to feel they need to keep that House seat? So that kind of stuff, morals, childbirth, abortion, the heartbeat bill, it's morality in our country. We're founded on God. Our whole country is founded as a nation, getting away from England and forced the church on us to come here to this new world so we have religious freedoms. Well, we're giving up our freedoms, and the squeaky wheel has always got the oil. Well, we're giving too much oil to the few little squeaky wheels, and our Republican-controlled House and Senate have a hard time. Second Amendment, freedom to bear arms. We're trying to do a open carry. Do I have to have a permit to do that? The Constitution of the United States don't say I have to have a permit to do that. So freedom issues, life, marriage. I'm a male, she's a female. The only thing God sanctified is marriage between a male and a female. No, we're not married. But the moral issues and the fact that our elected officials don't seem to care about us Christians. They don't care about us conservatives. They can't even pass a thing that a boy can't play in a girl's sport because they're so scared that the Democratic people who helped them get in office might not help them next time. Well, I want to close the primary so we don't have to worry about getting them back in. We'll get people who are elected and are true conservatives, and you get elected by conservatives.
That's what the GOP is about, right?
That's what it's supposed to be about.
The state GOP party as a whole has been seeing quite a bit of division this year, unfortunately. So if you were elected, what is your plan to pull the party together and move forward as a unified party?
Well, from what I just said, I have been told by many, the powers to be, that I would be more divisive on the things that I just said. But I'm not wanting to pull together the whole state of South Carolina. I want to pull together the Republicans. If you read the creed, if you read our platform, that's who I want to embrace. Now, the Democrats do a better job at bringing in outsiders. If you want to think that that tree right beside us or behind us is more important than human life, the Democrats get that person's vote. If you think that a child can be killed all the way up until it's born, Obama 4 times while a senator actually signed a bill that if a partial birth abortion went bad and the baby fell out before it got killed, his little brains were sucked out, put it over in a corner and let it suffocate, and let it die of starvation. So I don't want those kind of people. I don't mind them coming to the party because we can sway them to do our platform. But I don't want to change my platform or ignore the platform for people who love a tree more than human life. Gay people. I don't mind gay people. I have friends who are gay. But do I want to change my party's outlook on what we represent to make that gay person come over to us? No. I want them to see something within our party. Physical accountability. Social, that would be a struggle with them maybe. But I want them to come to us, but I don't want us to bend to get them to come over. So I may be more divisive throughout the state, but within the party, read the platform. Read the platform. I want people who look at the platform and at least 95% go, that's me. That's what I stand for. If there's someone who only believes in 5% of the platform, they can come over. But I'm not going to change 100% of the platform and get rid of that 5% that they don't like to make them stay. Maybe more divisive. I think it'd be more of a unifying within the party, not necessarily within the state.
Understood. So in conclusion, and this is where you get to speak free too, what would you like people to know about you that would convince them to vote for you at the convention this May as the GOP chair?
Well, first off, if I am chair-elect, you will never have a remote convention to where the people in Charleston County, Calhoun County, Anderson County, Greenville County have to sit in your little group, in your little corner. Look at us. We just had breakfast at Milltown Place, a little place in West Pelzer. Went to the little festival.
Yeah.
Did you see any masks?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I loved when I saw a thing on Facebook called Controlavirus. Coronavirus is real. I had it. Your husband had it.
Right.
It's real. It's the flu. It's an ugly flu. But here's the deal. I would never restrict you from getting together because you feel the mood of the people. Whenever this is going to happen, and I would love to say that I'd get elected. Who knows? Probably not, but maybe. But when Lynn Wood walked out on stage at Anderson County, oh my God. Ah! I mean, it was like, oh. What I feel is happening is, I know it's not going to be me walking out on stage and people going crazy because I'm there, but I think the current chairman, Drew McKenzie, don't want the crowd to feel the passion that someone can have for someone. So we're going to split up. Anderson County felt it. Other counties he's been at felt it. I have open. How much money does he make? How much per diem does he get? How much reimbursement? How much total money has he been given? Here's one question of the hour. I've heard he gets a commission off the money that's raised. Have you heard that?
No, I don't know what the structure is.
I don't know, but I heard that at our convention from a guy that you know. And so, you know, honest and open. Okay, I am who I am. I repair machines for a living. I was in sales most of my life. I know how to talk to people. Call my customers. Customers like me because I'm a fixer. When I was 5, people brought toaster ovens to my mom and dad's mule house where we lived, and I fixed toasters. I had a small engine mini bike, go-kart, bicycle repair shop at 9. God gave me a natural talent to look at something that's broke. Our way we elect officials is very broke. The way we control our government, I mean, Anderson County, I wasn't there. I don't currently hold office within our county, but at our regular meeting, we took the chairman out, took her off the position, and unanimous. It wasn't like dissent. It was 100% unanimous, elected a new chairman, and the state never recognized that. The state actually sent Mark, not this one, I forget Mark's last name, sent him up to run our convention. Your county is your county. You're standalone within the group. As long as you stand behind our platform, stand behind our creed, I'm not going to meddle in your business. Did not appreciate the county coming in to run our show.
The state.
We're a subsidiary of the state of South Carolina. And I tell you what I'll never do. Jonathan Hill, one of the most conservative ever elected officials we have in South Carolina, ran and won. But Drew McKenzie saw different this last election cycle. He actually supported financially, paperwork sent out that South Carolina Republican Party was for Jonathan's opposition of Mr. Parfit. That was wrong. As a local level, we would never, we have it in our rules, we can't back anybody, written or verbally, before the primary. But Drew McKenzie did that in our Anderson County, and he might have done it in some of y'all's and you just didn't know. Some of the candidates you have run, maybe Drew's company that does elections help you get elected. Maybe he helped other people get elected. But I don't know a lot about Mr. Parfit, but I know that he can't be as conservative as Jonathan Hill. So if Drew McKenzie wanted Jonathan Hill out of office because he's conservative, think about it, people. That's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be the conservative party. And to try to take out the most conservative in my county is just wrong on every level. I will be honest with you. I stand so strong on closing the primaries. I don't want South Carolina choosing the coach or the quarterback for Clemson. And that's kind of a crazy analogy, but it really works. You're not going to let the Democratic Party, I was going to say you're not going to let the Democratic Party choose our leaders, but we do. One of the guys I ran against in the Senate race bragged in front of Ann Thayer, Michael Gambrell, Ann Thayer, and a couple other elected officials that how he won the primary for the Senate seat was 27% of his vote came from his Democratic friends. We've got to stop that. Is Michael a terrible? No, he's not a terrible House of Representatives. He's not a true blue conservative. So I will be honest with you, and I will not meddle in your affairs. We have to watch each other, and we got certain rules. Rules are good. But I want to lead the party to where the R stands for Republican, and you'll never hear the word rhino again, hopefully.
So that's it in a nutshell.
That's it in a nutshell.
That's who Mark Powell is.
Yes, it is.
Well, thank you so much for letting me come to Pelzer and Williamston and interview you and allowing the people to get to know you. And thank you for the tour. This is lovely, and I am definitely going to go into that spring.
Come visit
get
us.
Some water. I hear it's the Fountain of Youth. I'm just going to stick my whole head in it.
No, she won't.
No, I won't.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Today I am here with Drew McKissick. He is our current SC GOP Chair, and again, just to remind everyone, this is for a lot of new GOP members and delegates that are in the party. They're new; they don't necessarily know the folks running or even the current chair. So we want you all to have a chance to meet everyone. Drew, so briefly for the audience, give us a quick bio.
Sure.
What is your political backgrounds, beliefs, and aspirations?
Well, got involved in the Republican Party back in the late 80s, actually before I got into college. And got active in college Republicans, young Republicans, and then in the local Republican Party. And primarily to me, being involved in the party was a way to, as I saw it, have more of an impact on the things that I care about. And I'm a Christian, I'm a conservative, and a Republican in that order, as Vice President Pence has said. And to me, there's so many issues that I care about, things that I wanted to make a difference on, that I couldn't be a single issue person. So I found if I could get involved in the Republican Party, it would give me an outlet to actually have an impact on the party, on candidates that would get elected to office, and then also help other folks like myself do the same thing. So over the years, worked with candidates and campaigns in the local party organization. worked with grassroots lobbying groups, grassroots political groups like Christian Coalition, like Right to Life, and some other outfits. And then sometimes worked with the party, and then sometimes worked with the groups, and then back with the party again. So kind of giving me an interesting perspective, sort of being on the outside, throwing rocks at the building, so to speak, and then you work in the building for a while and you're catching the rocks. And you kind of see the problem from both perspectives. And I think the biggest problem that we all have is apathy. Apathy is our problem. Apathy, especially on the part of people who think like we do, on the part of other conservatives, to actually be involved in the system and have an impact. Folks have said, or wondered why sometimes we have so many elected officials that, they would disagree with so vehemently. And in many cases, it's because of too few people actually showing up and getting involved. And that's been one of the things that's been, really important to me is how can I teach, how can I help other folks who are conservative just like I am actually know how to have an impact on the political system. Because to me, it's one thing to care and be passionate. It's another thing to know how to do something about what you care about. Because when people don't, then they get frustrated really easily, or they get burnt out and they go home, and then it's hard to get them back into the system. So a little bit of knowledge goes a long way. How to be effective, and so I've actually written several books about that over the years. Grassroots political action series, how to create a winning campaign plan, other things like that. That give a little bit of knowledge to people who actually care, and then help them make a difference.
No, that's interesting. Yeah. So this is going to be a two-part question. Of course, it's kind of a silly question for you because it says, why are you running? I think you just answered that. But again, it's why are you running, and what would you like to accomplish if elected going forward? Because you've accomplished some things that I know that you'll give a description of. But
Right. Well, look, why to run again? Well, I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy being able to, again, have an impact on the things that I care about, being able to help other people do the same thing. Going forward, I wrote an article about this for Newsmax probably about almost 2 months ago at this point, because after the election, I got so many calls from reporters that invariably started with the same question. It was, well, where does the Republican Party go from here? And it was all basically in reference to what happened nationally versus what happened here in South Carolina. And my point was, well, as far as I'm concerned, especially here in South Carolina, we continue to do what we've been doing. It works. It worked here. We had the best election result for Republicans here in South Carolina in 140 years. We won a presidential race by delivering more votes for Donald Trump than for any other presidential candidate in the history of South Carolina. Winning a U.S. Senate race by double digits and winning back the 1st Congressional District from Joe Cunningham, all while Democrats were spending over $150 million against us here in South Carolina. Wow. That plus the 3 state Senate seats we picked up, 2 state House seats, 5 sheriff's races around the state, a multitude of county council races and other local offices all up and down the ballot. The biggest thing that I think there's a tale of the tape for the fact that the party's heading in the right direction is the straight ticket voting. So, 2016 was the first time that Republicans beat Democrats on straight ticket voting in South Carolina. We beat them by 2.5 points. In 2016, first time Donald Trump was on the ballot. 2 years later, in 2018, we beat them by 8 points statewide. In this past election, November of 2020, we beat them by 17 points on straight ticket voting all across South Carolina. And that's more and more of the newer folks who have come into the party because of President Trump, because of our conservative message over the years, who have begun to think of themselves now as Republicans. So instead of just voting for a Republican and then maybe splitting their ticket, they're pushing the straight ticket Republican button. That's an indicator that we've been moving in the right direction, that the way forward is to continue to go the way we've been going with our conservative message. It's working, it's reaching people, it's getting conservative Democrats and independents over into our party, and it's working its way further and further down the ballot now in terms of our success. Within this recent party reorganization process that we're going through now, we have doubled 100% bigger turnout than we had for the same process 2 years ago. And that is, to me, a testimony to many of the volunteers that got involved in 2020, getting them to come over now and be involved in the party itself. Politics is about manpower. I've said many times politics is spelled P-E-O-P-L-E. If you got people, you can have a campaign, you can have a political party, you can win, you can enact policies that you care about, but you have to have people. And this is a good indicator of success in 2022 by having so many new folks involved in the process.
That's a good thing. All right. So do you have any experience in the business and financial accountability and specifically fundraising? Because we know that that's a big part of this job.
Well, only 4 years worth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, there are, as I like to say, 3 fundamentals to politics at any level, whether it is a school board race or a presidential race, or whether it's organizing a political party. And that is organization or manpower, as we just talked about people.
Right.
Secondly is our message, what we say about what we believe in a way that will convince other people to be involved with us. And the third is fundraising, raising the money to make the first 2 things possible. And in the last 4 years, we've broken fundraising records here in South Carolina. We've got the largest grassroots donor program, actually, I think, of any other party in the country right now. We're either first or second, I forget which. With the Elephant Club, we've grown that from 13 members to 890 members in the last 3.5 years. Wow. But then also when it comes to just major donor fundraising, what we had come into the party in the last election cycle, and we've shattered fundraising records. We've added about 4,000 new donors via direct mail in the last couple of years. And again, people are responding to our message, and they've been responding to our candidates and folks who want to participate and grow the party. Again, fundraising is what makes those other 2 things possible, and it's where I spend probably about half my time.
Yeah, it's an important function of this position, definitely.
Yep.
So, as far as the creed, Republicans live by the creed. So,
Sure.
Tell us, does that inspire you, and if so, how?
Sure. Well, again, it's for lack of a better way to put it, it's the shorthand version of what our party actually stands for. I mean, versus say the long version being our platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, but those principles are encapsulated in our creed. We don't choose to be common people. We want to stand for personal responsibility and freedom, and in a way that attracts other people to our cause too. It's I think it's a creed that attracts other people to our cause, and it inspires me in the sense that we've got incredible principles that are enshrined in our platform that are very, very important to all of us, and it inspires us to work and to organize and to carry those things forward into our party, because if people don't do what they're not inspired about, and we've got a message that does inspire people, and when folks come to our meeting and they hear the creed for the first time, they'll say, that's really good, that's me, that's what I believe in. It's like, yeah, that's what we do. When we did some modifications to the platform a couple of years ago, we took what was a 40-page document, and we condensed it into sort of like what you see with pocket constitutions. We created what we call a pocket platform, kept all of our issue positions, but modified the rhetoric and shortened some of it in a sense that it makes it approachable for the average person to be able to read and understand what our party actually stands for, so they can compare it to what they believe. And it's been very, very successful, because again, people get inspired by message, and that's encapsulated in our platform and in our creed, and that encourages them to then do the organizational work, or maybe even giving money towards that work. So again, it's one of the 3 fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. So would you like to change anything about the state GOP's organization now and how it's run, maybe to improve or better? I mean, we all look to improve.
Oh, of course. Well, I mean, every year when we have our first state committee meeting, we set out goals for the year. So we've been goal-driven for the last 4 years since I've been in here. So what are we doing, in terms of fundraising? What are we doing in terms of communications and messaging? What are we doing in terms of manpower, finding new volunteers, setting those goals, going forward. And then when we come back every 3 months, when we have our quarterly meetings, we measure ourselves against those goals. So, and in every measure for the last 4 years, we've been up over each quarter as we're going forward in terms of fundraising, in terms of adding names to our email list so we can communicate to more people, in terms of social media contacts and outreach, and other media work that we do, and then in terms of organization. And as I was just pointing out in this cycle, doubling effectively what we had 2 years ago. Those were all goals that we had from this past January. Actually, our goal for reorg in this cycle was to increase it by at least 50%. And we've blown through that goal. In terms of fundraising, for instance, with our Elephant Club membership, we want to get to 1,000 members by the end of this year. We're at about 890 right now. Setting those goals going forward, again, around those three central tenets of political success, if you will: fundraising, manpower, and then messaging. That's what we build our goals around in each cycle. So to me, again, the way forward is doing more of what we've been doing. We just do more of it, because if we have more manpower, more money, and we get our message out there, we'll be more politically successful. Because our job as a party is to be a campaign committee. Legally, that's what we are. We are a campaign committee. Our job is to put together those fundamentals to then be ready to win the next campaign. And for us right now, once we get past the state convention, that's working forward to November of 2022. What can we do to put the things in place that we need in order to win?
Right.
Period.
Gotcha. So what are your top conservative legislative priorities?
Right.
And how do you envision working with state legislators to push forward a more conservative agenda in South Carolina?
Sure. So again, those are things that we lay out at our first meeting of the year. We set out legislative priorities for the year. A couple of things along those lines. One is some election reform items that we've been pushing. We didn't have the problems here in South Carolina that they had in other states, obviously, like Georgia, Pennsylvania, or Wisconsin, Arizona. But that doesn't mean that we couldn't potentially have those problems. Democrats came and filed the lawsuits here that they filed in other states. Within hours of getting or seeing that lawsuit, we had our attorneys intervene in that case, or those cases. It was 2 federal cases and 1 state case. And we fought them all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court, and we won. We stopped them from changing the laws here in South Carolina before Election Day, which was key to keep them from. They had what I call sort of the buffet list of things that make fraud easier that they were trying to do here in South Carolina, whether it was ballot harvesting or drop boxes for ballots that would be unattended to, you name it. We stopped all of that. But again, that doesn't mean that our current laws couldn't potentially be abused in a future election cycle. So for example, mail-in absentee ballots. So currently we have 17 excuses that you can use to use a mail-in absentee ballot in South Carolina. We would like to see that effectively those 17 excuses amount to no excuse. Potentially anybody could fit in one of those 17 excuses. We would like to see that reduced to about 5. If you are military or overseas or stationed elsewhere in the country, you're a student, you're permanently, or in a medical facility and incapacitated, those type things. And otherwise push people toward voting, absentee in person over a certain period of time where they have to show that photo ID. That limits drastically the potential for fraud and abuse with mail-in absentee ballots. So we've got a bill that will push that forward. We also have a bill that was sponsored by Speaker Lucas, as a matter of fact, that passed the House, is sitting in the Senate now, which would mandate that all state election commissions around the state have to apply election law and election regulations the same. I know that sounds profound, but right now they don't have to. So what's done in Georgetown can be different than what's done in Pickens. That creates a definite potential legal problem. Say if we were in an extremely close statewide campaign, we could have lawsuits flying all over the state about things being done different in various counties. This bill would fix that. It would mandate standardization across the state and put the county election commissions under the authority of the state election commission. So it's a big change. We want to see that get past the Senate. That's on our list of legislative priorities. And then there are some other bills we're pushing for and have been for a good number of years now. Partisan voter registration in South Carolina, which would then allow for closed primaries. For the past 2 election cycles, or primaries rather, the June primary in 2018 and the June primary in 2020, we put partisan voter registration as a question on our primary ballot. We put that on there for a reason, because we wanted our members of the legislature to see how many primary voters actually want closed primaries, want people to be able to register by party. And in each case, it was about 85% of our voters around the state. And if they don't move on it anytime soon, I'll put it on the ballot again in 2022. We have several bills that would accomplish that. It depends on which way they want to go. But my philosophy on that is I want to see any of them pass, because I think the way we do it now, where any Tom, Dick, and Harry can walk in and help pick our candidate, is the worst way that we could pick candidates. The most important thing that a political party does is nominate candidates. And when you allow anybody to walk in the door and do that for you, it diminishes the value of your party and your vote in a primary. And then there are several other smaller issues beyond that, like getting rid of fusion ticket voting, where people can run as a nominee for multiple parties at the same time. Oh. We think that should go. Some laws to tighten up how often they have to purge voter rolls, and so forth in each county. So those are all on our legislative priority list. Again, we pass those. Our state executive committee, we put those forward at the first meeting of the year, January, February, and then we work forward with members of the legislature, trying to find sponsors, attending the subcommittee meetings, and pushing those things forward. So we made some progress on some bills so far. Not done yet. Of course, legislative session lasts 2 years, so we're working to get some things pushed through the House right now, so we can come back and at least get them through the Senate before the next election next year.
Wow, that sounds like busy work to me.
It's a good bit of work.
Yes, I believe so. So the state GOP party as a whole has seen quite a bit of division this year. What's your plan to pull the party together and move forward if you win the GOP chair seat again?
Well, again, it comes back to issues. Issues are what motivate people. What motivates you to get involved in the campaign, or to get involved in the political party, or to vote for someone, or to give them a contribution, or whatever. Inevitably, it comes down to issues, and that comes back to messaging and our principles and so forth. So, first and foremost, there's Democrats, what they're up to, and what we're doing to try to oppose what they're up to, whether it's nationally and here in South Carolina. Of course, here we have a Republican majority, pushing people around the issues, many of which I just talked about, and some other issues. We've had the heartbeat bill that we were able to get passed in record time this year because of that larger majority we now have in the Senate and in the House. Second Amendment related legislation that's passed the House and is now pending in the Senate. We send out action alerts on a regular basis around many of those bills. And then so one, it gets our grassroots engaged in contacting their legislators, and two, it lets our legislators see that the party is behind pushing these bills and trying to get them passed. So continuing to do that, keep folks motivated around issues that we have in common. In my opinion, we've got probably the most conservative platform we've had since I've been involved in the state Republican Party, over 30 years. I think if we were to, poll all of the Republicans in the state, we would find that almost all of them agree on 90% of what's in our platform. At any given time, though, they might disagree over which one is their top priority, and it depends on what issue is hitting them in the face on a daily basis. Is it their last tax bill, or is it, the potholes they were running over on the way to work in the morning, or whatever. And those priorities sort of change from day to day, I know. But it's the issues that we have in common that motivate us. So to me, is keeping an issue-focused party will keep folks together, focused on the common goal of electing candidates who will take those issues and try to enact them into public policy.
Yeah. And so, in conclusion, what would you like people to know about you that would convince them to vote for you at the convention, all the new delegates this May the 15th? Right.
Well, you've got a lot of interesting things, and I use the word interesting charitably, that have been said by some folks about me, about other folks in leadership in the party. I just put out an endorsement list, actually just last night, from folks in local leadership who are endorsing my campaign. Basically, out of 46 counties, it is about 44 county party chairmen, 44 or so state committee members, and a bunch of former chairs and committee members as well. You don't get that kind of grassroots support from people who are in leadership unless they know you, they know the job you've done, they trust you, and they know the truth about you. A lot of what has been said by some folks running right now and some of the folks who are supporting some of the people that are running right now has no basis in fact and never has. For example, there is some folks have been saying that I gave to an organization, which I did, called Rampart PAC about 4 years ago. Rampart PAC was a political action committee that was started to support Christian conservative candidates. A friend of mine was running for Congress at the time. I made a donation to the PAC and so they could continue to help his campaign. About a year and a half ago, that PAC went out of business. So they filed with the FEC to dissolve the PAC and so forth, and they let their domain name expire because nobody was there to keep renewing the domain. They're out of business, so they don't need the domain. So someone in China buys the domain, along with about 1,300 other domains at the time, I believe, and pointed the domain towards Chinese pornography. So someone now who's running against me comes along and says, well, look, Drew gave money to this PAC, and this PAC's website now points to Chinese pornography. Ipso facto, Drew supports Chinese pornography. And has said that in multiple places in social media posts. Other people supporting his campaign have done that. Incredibly disingenuous and dishonest at best. My wife was really happy to find that. And have posted numbers of other comments and so forth, even on her Instagram account, things that are just very scurrilous and not even worthy of mentioning in a public forum, quite frankly. But look, this is the kind of stuff I signed up for, and that's okay. I mean, I care about the things that I care about and actually being successful at it going forward. If people want to play those kind of games, that's on them, because people eventually see them for what they are. Right now you've got a candidate running who has never lived a day in South Carolina in his life until about 3 months ago, who's been spreading some of that innuendo, and quite frankly, who gave money to Barack Obama, gave tens of thousands of dollars to candidates who were endorsed by Planned Parenthood in Georgia, and who hadn't voted in a Republican primary since 2004, and stood up before TV cameras in December discouraging Georgia Republicans from turning out and voting in the Georgia Senate runoffs. And over 500,000 Republicans stayed home and didn't turn out in those runoffs in Georgia, and now Chuck Schumer's running the United States Senate. That is not a definition of someone that, I think, and I think a lot of other Republicans think, should be in charge of the #1 Republican campaign operation in South Carolina. It sounds a little bit more like, someone who would be a, quote, Republican in name only at best and maybe a Democrat plant at worst. But people can be the judge of that. That's fine, and I'll stand by the judgment of the delegates because, again, as I pointed out, I've got support from folks all across the state who've known me for over 30 years, who have worked with me in many cases for over 30 years in conservative grassroots politics. They know my record. They know what I've done, and they support my campaign. And on top of all that, of course, there is the endorsement actually twice over from President Donald Trump, and also who endorsed me the second time the day after my latest opponent jumped into the race, which I think speaks volumes. So I'll just leave that with them and let them speak on my behalf.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for letting me come here
Sure.
and interview. And I know this is after hours and after 5, we're all off work, and I just wanted to
Happy
thank
to do
you because, again, a lot of people that are new to the party, they
Sure.
don't know any of the candidates, and they don't know you. And I
Right.
think it's important they get to know every single one of them.
Sure,
So
absolutely.
I hope everyone has a great evening, and we will talk to you soon.
Take care.
Hey, thank you for watching Amy Hill. I'm here with Mr. Lynn Wood, and we are going to get to know him a little better. I know he's new to South Carolina. Thank you for having me, or letting me interview you.
Sure.
So there is a lot of new GOP delegates and members this year.
It's good
They've had
news.
an overwhelming, yes it is. It's good that there's a lot of people willing to participate and wanting to participate now. But so briefly for our audience, give a quick bio, what's your political background, beliefs, and aspirations for South Carolina?
Well, that's a lot of questions. Let me give you my background. I'm a lawyer.
Right.
I've been practicing law almost 44 years. The first half of my career I did a lot of medical work, medical negligence work, and since 1996 I've focused largely on First Amendment issues, defamation, reputation, and I've handled a couple of fairly significant fraud cases. So I'm a trial lawyer. I love it. A little bit tired of some of the games lawyers play, but I've had a good career, some great clients, and I moved to South Carolina in February of this year after I purchased some property last year. I spent some time at it in Beaufort County. I love the land. I got to know the people. I love the people. And I decided in February that I was going to move to South Carolina and make it my official residence, so I did. I still have a home in Atlanta, and a lake home. I still love Georgia. I was born in North Carolina. So North Carolina to Georgia to South Carolina, I think I'm a well-rounded Southerner. How about that?
Well-rounded Southern boy. So this is two-part.
Okay.
Why are you running for the SC GOP State Chair, and what would you like to accomplish if elected?
I had a group of individuals that approached me after I had said on social media that I felt like the citizens of our country needed to get involved in government, in politics, to rebuild it because it was broken. We learned that in November of 2020. So I urged people to get involved, and all of a sudden I had some people come and say, hey, you said get involved, we want to get you involved, would you run for chairman of the South Carolina Republican Party? And I thought, well, what have I got myself into? But I said for others to do it. I felt like I was a man of principle and am, and I said, well, if I've asked people to do it, then I've got to step up to the plate and do it.
Lead by example.
I didn't come over here to get involved in politics. I've avoided politics all my life. I'm 68 years old. I've taken a greater interest since November because of the things I saw going on in Georgia that almost are identical to the things going on in South Carolina in the establishment of the party. While I've been an astute observer of politics, particularly presidential politics, this is the first time I've ever somehow gotten myself involved in politics. So I did it to try to represent the people. I didn't come with an agenda. I think that the chairman of the party should represent what the people want done, not what the chairman or his buddies want done. And from what I've learned, the problem with the South Carolina Republican Party is that there's a group of people at the top that run it for their interest, their money, their friends, and they're not listening to the people. So I'd like to be a chairman that listens to the people and advocates what the people want done with their party. I want to make the party better again, make it better.
Understood, yes. So do you have any, and I know almost what the answer is going to be, but I'm going to let you tell the new folks, do you have any experience in business and financial accountability and specifically fundraising? Because as you know, GOP, there is a fundraising component to that.
I have, of my 44 years of law practice, I believe I have had my own law firm, a small business, for a little over 30 years. So I've got 30 years experience running a small business. I had to meet payrolls. There were some years where I always met my payroll. I was proud of that. Some years I met my payroll, but I didn't get paid. But I know about the burdens that are placed on small businesses in terms of government, and I know how to make a profit. So I've got, I believe, a lot of experience in business, and I think small business, medium-sized business is where we need to be emphasizing our efforts in the future, because we've got to rebuild the middle class in our country. That's the heart and soul of our country. It should be the heart and soul of our Republican Party. So I think I'm well equipped from an experience standpoint to help in that regard. I'll understand the problems of the small and moderate business person.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Now, there was one other part to that, business and what else?
And fundraising.
Fundraising.
Yes.
Well, what do you know? I founded a 501c4 nonprofit foundation this past summer, 2020, called #FightBack Foundation. In the summer of last year, I saw what I thought was a color revolution. where we were not really going to have an election, but we were going to have an effort to overthrow our government like a third world country revolution. I was right. So I founded Fight Back in the summer to stand essentially for the mission that we wanted to defend our Constitution, because I thought we were going to probably get close to losing it, and we have almost, haven't we? And I wanted Fight Back to be there in the future to advocate to never let our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, our Constitution, and our constitutional rights ever be threatened again. So as part of that, I've obviously been engaged in fundraising. We raised funds for the criminal defense of Kyle Rittenhouse, $2.5 million, I believe. We've raised money to fight the election fraud. We've raised money to fight back some of the vindictive type agenda-driven grievances against lawyers, including myself, by state bars. So I've got experience there. I also have a 501c3 not-for-profit corporation called Allie's Place, i.e. a place for all, where I have not started actively raising money, but I intend to, because that's going to build a shelter for dogs. I want rescue dogs to be fat and happy and loved, and not the pitiful characters we see on TV where people are trying to make money on them. I want to also build a chapel on one of my properties. So I want Allie's Place, i.e. a place for all, for puppies. The Tomatley Chapel, a place for all, is another one of my goals, and I'll be raising money for that. So I don't like to ask people for money. I've always been, I think my friends and people I've worked with would tell you, I'm a giver, not a taker. But I felt like people wanted to be involved in what's happening in our country, and I think I've shown with Fight Back that they do want to give for the right reasons to the right people. I don't take any money myself, except for expenses, which are legitimate. And I believe that's going to help me be a better fundraiser for Allie's Place when I go to raise money for the dogs and for the chapel. And I also hope incorporated part of that is a camp on one of my properties for kids. I think there's going to be a lot of kids in the future that are not going to have parents. And so I can set up a camp, day camp, 2-week camp, something that they can do without paying for it, to learn how to hunt and fish and ride a horse, take care of a dog, farm, and love God. Then I want to do that as part of Allie's Place, the 501c3. So all of those things are part of the vision that I have for my property, which I believe will make Beaufort County and the city of Yemassee better. I want to try to make the South Carolina Republican Party better. That'll make the state of South Carolina better. And South Carolina is a leader in this country. It always has been. South Carolina, I believe, will lead the way to make America better. So I'm enthusiastic about being in South Carolina, and I'm here to help. I'm not here to harm the party or harm the people. I love the people.
Good.
I think I'm a positive, and I'm not a carpetbagger.
That would be
Did you hear that,
positive.
Drew?
Oh no. So having to do with the creed, and we know what the creed says, but does it inspire you? And if so, how would it inspire you?
Well, the creed, as I understand it, and I haven't memorized it.
I don't think any of us have.
Listen, that's why they give it out at each meeting.
Yeah.
But you can read it and you know what it is. It's essentially affirming our basic fundamental beliefs and rights as Americans. So what I'm big on is I've been big on the Constitution all my life. I'm a student and a lawyer in First Amendment and our Bill of Rights. And that's why one of the reasons I'm fighting for Fight Back is because I see our constitutional rights being threatened. But the creed essentially talks about what I've learned firsthand. America is a land of opportunity.
It is.
My background, I'm 16 years old, didn't have a dime in my pocket. My mother went to the morgue, my dad went to prison. But I made it because I was an American. America gave me the opportunity. Same boy at 16, any other country in the world wouldn't have made it. So I love America. The creed of the Republicans is consistent with the way I feel about America. I love freedom. I love the fresh air of liberty. And I think that's what that creed is saying to you. Live free.
Yeah.
Have your rights. They're given by God, not government.
That is true. That is true. So
Excuse me, I'm a little hoarse from having my speech earlier today.
I know you were out there a very long time in
That's
the
all
sun.
right. I love the people.
Yes. Would you like to change anything about the state GOP's organization or how it's currently ran?
Well, I think it's run from the top down. It needs to be run from the bottom up. So I think you need to reverse it. You need the people in charge of the party, not the elite. I think that you have to look through what they're trying to do now is to come up with a very complicated convention, which I think is meant to cheat. I looked at the bylaws. You can't hardly understand them, and I'm a lawyer. I'd simplify the rules of the party. When you complicate things, it's hard to understand. If it's hard to understand, it's hard to know what to do. So the rules of the party themselves need to be simplified greatly. You don't need all these nonsensical rules to run a meeting, to make decisions, and to do business. Beyond that, I feel like there's a lot of interlocking relationships that have developed over years. I'm concerned about the nature of some of those relationships, where the money's coming from, where the money's going. I'd like to see the party focus on its monies when needed to be spent in South Carolina with South Carolina vendors. I don't like the fact that Lindsey Graham's got $102 million in a PAC. I don't believe the campaigns are that expensive. I think it's a racket. I think it involves nefarious activities. And I think that over time you're going to find that this money changing that goes on in the Republican Party and other parties. The Democrats do it too. I'm not singling out the Republicans. They're both guilty. They're corrupt. The love of money is the root of all evil. If people start following the money, they're going to find the evil, and there's evil in South Carolina. I'm very concerned about child sex trafficking and pedophilia. And I intend at least to urge that to the members of the party as something that interests me. If they're as interested in it as I am, I'm going to fight to get rid of it and clean up the state and save those children.
I would like to see that gone as well. I'm a grandmother of 6 with 7
You're a grandmother?
in the oven. Yes, I
Wow.
have 6 grandkids with one in the oven.
Well, I'm a grandfather, but I look older than you do.
Not much, not by much, I promise. So what are your top conservative legislation priorities, and that might be one, and how do you envision working with the state legislature to push more conservative agenda for South Carolina?
Well, now I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know how to do all of this, but I'm a quick study. You can look at my legal career and know that I can take on a new case, new law, new facts. I can dig in, I can understand it. And I'm an advocate. I view my role as being more of an advocate for what the people in the party want. And there'll be good, competent people that'll do the administrative nuts and bolts. But I can tell you now that it bothers me that South Carolina has the most progressive / liberal Republican legislature in the country. What? South Carolina is rock solid conservative. Why do we have a legislature that is progressive, the most progressive liberal leaning in the country? Something's wrong. I think you need to push the legislation to have closed primaries. It's like a border. If you don't have a wall, you don't have a country. If you don't have closed primaries where Republicans vote for Republicans and Democrats for Democrats, you don't have a political party. So I would push for closed primaries. There's a lot of other issues that I personally would fight for if the party wanted me to, but it's not my agenda that I'll be pushing. It'll be the agenda of the members of the party. I know there are issues before the state legislature. I believe that Roe versus Wade is unconstitutional. I believe life begins at conception, or as the Bible would say, creation. The Constitution is based on God's law. That's what the founders said. God's law means God's law. Roe versus Wade is unconstitutional. That's a legal perspective. I think I'm right. It's also a spiritual perspective. I love God. I'm unashamedly a person who will tell you that. I think we need God back in government. We need God back in schools. We need God back, more of an emphasis in our daily lives. So God-fearing people need to be in government because they will not lie, they will not cheat, they will not steal. So we need to get more citizens involved as citizen statesmen. Go up, serve a couple terms, come back and live in your life. Judges ought to be elected and then serve a couple terms and then go back and be lawyers. There's no school for judges. We got people that have get in office and they stay in office, and they're there for themselves and their friends, and they're not there for the people. So in terms of legislation, there's a lot of things that I would like to see done, but I'm just one member of the party. It won't be my agenda, it'll be the agenda of the people in the party. If there's a specific issue, I know there's issues about, I think South Carolina ought to do away with the income tax. I don't think we need it. I think you can do it in a consumption tax. I think South Carolina ought to rework its public school system and put the public school system back under the control of the local communities. You don't need all this government telling you how to teach your kids. And as we found in the last 2 decades, teaching our kids things that we didn't know they were teaching, they shouldn't have been taught. The community, we've got to get back to living locally, where people have more control over their lives. We've fallen into the syndrome where government controls us. We've got to flip that around, and we've got to know that we control our own lives, just like the creed says, live free. And we tell government what to do. We need government for national defense. We need government to regulate our monetary system. What else do we need government for?
They were originally created to govern interstate commerce and the military.
That's essentially finances and military. But what's happened over time is government has gotten so big that people have begun to believe that government tells us what to do. Government doesn't tell us what to do. We tell government what to do. We founded the country based on a constitution that was very restrictive. The last thing we wanted was another King George. And what have we gotten in our government? Another King George. We got to flip that around.
Yes, I think so. So this one's a big question that's on everybody's minds. The state GOP party as a whole has seen quite a bit of division this year. So if you were elected, how would you bring the party together, specifically to move forward?
Well, you heard me say that I wanted to make the South Carolina Republican Party better. But the truth is, you can't begin to look forward and make it better until you identify the problems that exist and fix them. What I've seen, and I saw this in Georgia, what I've seen in the Republican Party in South Carolina is that the division is not being created by someone like me coming in to try to be a participant. It's created because you have a ruling establishment, an elite establishment, that did not fight for Donald Trump. They did not fight to have the election audited. I know South Carolina says that Trump won. I think you've got to have an audit of the election in South Carolina for November of 2020. I think you're going to find that Trump won by more like 17 points than 7. I think you're going to find fraud in your down ballot races. The ES&S system needs to be discarded. You need to have voter ID, paper ballots, fingerprint confirmation and verification. Keep it simple. Computers are only allowing people to do one thing: cheat. 12-year-old can hack a computer. Computer hackers can do a lot of things with cell phones, internet lines. You've got to have a vote that has integrity. So get rid of the ES&S systems. Go back to a simple, verifiable vote. If you don't have voter integrity, you don't have the rule of law. It's the most important thing we do is to vote. So I think that the South Carolina Republican Party is living in the wrong era. And I think they're trying to live like the old Republicans, and they've forgotten that the Republican Party is now made up of the middle class. Hillary calls us the deplorables. I don't think Drew McKissick was very complimentary of the Bikers for Trump. The Bikers for Trump are the heart and soul of America. The elite in the Republican Party looks down their noses at them. They need to stop that and realize that we're all equal. We're all conservatives. We all love Trump from what he stands for. So the party can fix itself when the leadership embraces what the people want. They want an investigation and a restoration of their November 2020 vote. If the people ruling it are not going to give that to them, there's going to be division. In that type of instance, you've either got to find a compromise, or the people that are ruling have got to go find another party. Trump has said he did not want a third party, but I believe that President Trump wants a reformed Republican Party where the rhinos, Republican in name only, are out of power and the people are back into power. That's what I stand for. I think that's what Donald Trump stands for. We fix that problem, you fix the Republican Party, then you start looking in the future of how to make it better. There's not enough blacks in the Republican Party, but there's a lot of conservative blacks. There's not enough Hispanics in the Republican Party in South Carolina, but there are a large number of conservative Hispanics. Same thing is true with Asians. There are a lot of conservative Asians. The party needs to be more conservative. It needs more conservative color in it. Inclusive. And it's not a matter of trying to change the philosophy of the party. The creed is the creed. But there are people of all colors in America that stand by that same creed. So let's get them in the party and get them involved. We're not doing that right now. I think that's some ideas of how you can make the party better.
That's a good idea. So in conclusion, what would you like people to know about you that would convince them to vote for you on May 15th?
I'm a man of the people. I grew up at maybe a higher low class or low middle class. I've had success in my career, but I never cared about money. Even though I made enough, enough's enough. I've been around people of wealth that I've represented, some of the richest people in the United States. I'm not a guy that likes a lot of rich people. I think they look down on other people. What you can know about me is that I'm honest. I love God. I unashamedly tell you that I follow Jesus Christ. And if you follow Jesus Christ, you don't lie, cheat, or steal. You can take Lynn Wood to the bank when I tell you something. If I make a mistake, because we're all imperfect, I'll be the first to own up to it and try to learn from it. What I'd like for people to know about me is that I'm a man that loves God and loves America. I love freedom. When they unpack me one day, they're going to find a tattoo on my spine that God put on there that said, "Look, made in the USA." I love this country. And because I love this country so much, and I love God so much, I love the people. I want to help the people build a better life. I've had a good life. I want the generations after me, my children, my grandchildren, your grandchildren, your grandchildren's children. I want them to have a better life because I think America is unlimited in its potential. This is a great place to live, best place in the world, but we got to fix America too.
It is a great place to live. Well, thank you so much for your time today.